Welcome to episode 15 of Beyond Zero's podcast. Coming up,
victims are most likely to become victims again.
What I understand about mental health is simply what you allow and reject in your life to disturb you mentally. Whatever you allow, whatever you have an option to choose what to allow and what to reject. So yeah, it's up to you whether you're gonna be disturbed or you're gonna choose to stay healthy.
How can we as a society empower young people in the prevention of HIV?
Mental health for each staff member is of extreme importance. So yes, we do provide debriefing for each staff member. Personally, I will see a psychologist even myself, especially in the past I used to do that. And yeah, 2 years ago I had my own child and suddenly things changed for me as well, because now cases hit different because now you have a child yourself.
Today we will be discussing human rights and gender-based violence with Lerato Morulane.
The Adolescent and Young People program focuses on empowering young individuals between the ages of 10 to 24 through comprehensive health and social services. Key interventions include HIV prevention, behavior change initiatives, access to sexual reproductive health and rights, and mental health support. By creating these safe spaces in communities and leveraging on mobile health facilities, the program reaches in and out of school youth, particularly in colleges and underserved areas. The program also centralized to fostering risk reduction and empowering young people for sustainable health outcomes. Through the safe spaces that I've been talking about, there is peer counseling, community support. Say It, Let's Talk empowers young people to have open and honest conversation about what they are going through. As I've said, siyagowisha. And it's a very safe haven where stigma is left at the door and understanding takes its place. But the most amazing thing is that it's committed to breaking cycles of silence and isolation, because no young person should ever feel alone in the fight of mental well-being and safety. Ladies and gentlemen, non-confirming, my name is Lerato Morulane, all the way from Pretoria, but I'm not alone. I'm with the most, beautiful, awesome, knowledgeable, intelligent, very demure, very mindful, very cutesy ladies. And one is from the Tutuzela Centers. Her name is Rochelle van Veek. And I'm also with the beautiful Sibongilo, all the way from the Bona, the biggest, beautiful Free State. She is one of our beneficiaries for the Adolescent and Young People program. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So as I've mentioned that some of the work that we do, we focus on mental health. We focus on gender-based violence. And we need to understand first, Ukuti, what is really gender-based violence? So in today's topic, we will be discussing a topic that is usually an elephant in the room, It is a very important topic throughout the nation, across South Africa, and it is mental health and gender-based violence. So once again, welcome to the mental health and gender-based violence episode. So mental health, usually, it's defined as a more emotional and psychological, social well-being, that it affects people, how they think, how they feel, how they act. And also gender-based violence is defined also as an act that is committed to an individual that is, has to do with their gender. I don't want to say sexuality because it's going to raise a lot of, who has and step on a lot of toes. So as Rochelle, you deal with adolescents, you deal with young people in Tutuzela centers that are victims of abuse, either financially, mentally, psychologically, physically. And I would love to know from your side, these services that you provide, how do you do that? How do you go about it? And which services do you provide? How do you know, how should I provide this service for a young person? Or how should I provide this for a young woman? Or how should I provide this for a woman who comes with her entire family?
Thank you, Lerato. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, for Tuduzela Care Center, we render services to all sexual violence, young women and girls who were sexually abused. So we render a variety of service from counseling for mental health to the medical services and to gather evidence for the case. So when we talk about mental health, the first thing that we do is we need to provide that. We need to first see the importance of counseling for survivors of sexual abuse. Firstly, yes, we do want to help someone who went through extreme trauma, but we must also remember that if a survivor of trauma and sexual violence didn't get the help that they need, they can turn into an offender sooner or later. So we need to stop the cycle of abuse. So that's why it's so important for these people to get this services, to get counseling. So before we start, what we do is it is important to notice why it's important. It is of extreme importance to help these people because that's how we break the cycle. People get help, they won't become offenders one day, or we hope that they won't become offenders one day. The second reason is victims are most likely to become victims again. They might be raped again or sexually violated again due to confidence. So if a person didn't get the counseling and the help that they need, their mental health is not at the stage where they have confidence. So they might be a target again, because we all know that the research has shown that pedophiles especially target children with low self-confidence. So that's also another reason why it's of extreme importance. So what we do at the Tuduzela Care Center is, as soon as someone was raped and they were brought to the Tuduzela Care Center, they're in a state of trauma. Long-term counseling and counseling at that stage is not beneficial. So we provide them with trauma containment, containing the emotions from where they are at that stage. Not all of us react the same towards trauma. So one person might be extremely traumatized, and the next person might actually look quite okay. So we take it from where the client is at, we provide trauma containment, and then in 7 days' time, we start with long-term counseling from a social worker and psychological perspective.
So, I like that you're speaking about psychosocial support, psychological support. Now, we know sometimes in our country, the statistics, we see them, and as right now, we are in the middle of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence against women and children. So, Tutuzela centers, sometimes they get overcrowded. How do you manage that to make sure that each and every individual, they get the attention that they need? We don't want, people to be re-victimized. As you've said that, victims also, they can become re-victimized. So how do you ensure that when they're in Tutuzela centers, they are not re-victimized by victims? And also it's been shown that sometimes victims, they can become perpetrators, but what they have, seen at whatever that happened at home or on the street or whichever type of violence that they got from the other side. So how do you ensure that they are not re-victimized, and how do you ensure that also they do not become the perpetrators also while they are still in the facilities? And how do you ensure that you don't also get overcrowded? I know it's a very big question, but I will also love to know, how do you do that to make sure that, the victims, the biggest thing is that victims do not get re-victimized, to ensure that their mental health and their mental state, it's at the correct point?
Okay, Lerato, I will say, firstly, staff. When you say re-victimization, yes, it starts with when they enter the Tutuzela Care Center. So staff is of extreme importance. I always say to staff, you must treat a client as if it is your family member. If it was you or your brother or your sister, doesn't matter if it is the 10th person that's walking in here today, it is of extreme importance. So if passion is still in your staff, they will treat each client with the same respect. And I think it starts there. And if you can just bring it back if you can just rephrase your question again, what were you saying, the last part?
So it's the re-victimization and also the overcrowding. How do you take care of that?
Okay, definitely, yeah. Overcrowding it can become a problem, and also the safe space, like you said. So, firstly, it must be a safe space for victims. Overcrowding, yes, we make sure that new cases don't mix with follow-up clients, and because that is of extreme importance, like you said, with the reoffending of clients and the re-traumatization. If someone is there for a follow-up, we've had it in the past where we had a follow-up client. Um, she was there for a follow-up. She was raped maybe 2 weeks before, and then now her perpetrator was raped in jail. He was arrested and he was raped in jail. So he attended there because he was raped in jail, and she had to face him. And from there, we don't allow them to sit in the same room because it might be that you see you and be re-traumatized.
Thank you very much. Showers. Showers. Thank you. So those showers are introducing Sibongile. So Sibongile, as a young person, and I've been saying this, siyagoisha. Here we go through a lot. Yazin, si find out through siyagoisha, like it's just a lot. And I want to understand from your perspective, not the textbook definition, as a young person, as a young woman, what do you understand by the word mental health?
Okay, thank you. What I understand about mental health is simply what you allow and reject in your life to disturb you mentally. Whatever you allow, you have an option to choose what to allow and what to reject. So yeah, it's up to you whether you're gonna be disturbed or you're gonna choose to stay healthy mentally. Yeah, it's what you allow in your life and reject.
So it's what you allow, whether negative or positive.
Yeah,
it's what you allow.
You have a choice.
Yeah. So as we were talking before coming on stage, you raised that you are an AYP beneficiary, and I want to know that what is a beneficiary for AYP? What is it? What are the benefits? Do I get access to mental health facilities? Do I get access to, when I'm a victim of violence, do I get access to a social worker or hospital? Or what is really a beneficiary, and what are safe spaces?
Okay, thank you for that one again. Beneficiary, when you benefit, you're gonna benefit psychologically, you get help. Academically, you get help. Yeah, those are the most important two things that they matters right now. You also get help after the GBV. You also can attend them. They also help you dealing with those kind of cases.
So it's a safe haven.
It's a safe space.
So you mentioned psychologically and academically. Can we get more information? Because I know if you speak academically, I'm like, yo guys, already I have a PhD. So they're going to give me a PhD. Or what's that?
Okay, we have young girls and young boys who are still in school. So after school, they can go to a safe space whereby they have special tutors who help them with their assignments and their homeworks. And also after that, we also help them with their applications to go to tertiaries and go further with their studies, academic-wise. Then I spoke about the socially. We go back to the mental health part, whereby, let's say, like you said, we found out there's a gowisha. And at home, it's not always safe to speak at home. But a safe space, you go there and you talk without being judged. No matter what you're going to talk about, it's going to stay there, it's confidential. So it's a safe space for us, whereby we get help psychologically.
Oh, that's great. I was looking in the room, and I think, the person that I wanted to ask this, oh yes, they are here. I want an expert, point of view. And knowing this person for a very long time, I know they will provide one because they're very passionate about young people. This person is very passionate about young people, is very passionate about mental health, is very passionate about allowing people to voice their opinions and to be themselves. So if there's a mic, I want it to rove around this side. The person will show you when I ask this question. So on issues of mental health, I want to ask Pastor Dr. Sia, Nzimande, Siyabonga Nzimande. I want to understand from your professional or from your expert point of view, why is it difficult, firstly, for young people to talk to their parents about issues of mental health? And also, why is it important for young people from a disadvantaged background or areas to have access to psychosocial support? So it's two questions, but I want you, to speak about it, expect-wise. Tell us, why is it difficult for parents? Especially, I want to narrow it down to say, for black parents particularly, to talk to their kids about issues of mental health. And also for us as kids, to talk to our parents about issues of mental health. And secondly, why is it really important for young people from disadvantaged areas to have access to psychosocial support or psychological support? The mic is not working.
Thank you for throwing me under the bus. That was a big throw. I'm not expecting anything to be asked from me. But let me answer the first part of the question. I think research shows us that young people learn better from each other. And what we begin to understand when I said young people can learn better from each other, it's not that young people don't want to hear about matters of mental health from people who are older than them, or they don't know how to listen to their parents. But actually, if I'm looking for advice and I want to tell somebody of what I'm going through, I might actually listen to my peer more than I'm listening to someone who's an adult. But I also want to bring into perspective that when we're dealing with issues of young people, because that can go more into psychosocial support for young people by training other young people to be support structures for other young people, that can go on and be a ripple effect on why young people learn better from each other. Studies and number of studies within Human Science Research Council have showed us that. But I also want to bring into perspective that information alone does not change people. People change when they see those around them change. You can give me a flyer, you can put a billboard, you can do anything, but I want to see people around me changing. Then I can begin to accelerate and grasp onto that change. So what young people definitely need is, we need to, like how these programs we're talking about being done by Beyond Zero, AYP, creating safe spaces, but it can't just be creating safe spaces for young people not to be ambassadors. It must be creating space that says young people will be ambassadors of change of mental health and be able to give advice to other young people in a structured way, but in a community level. And then I don't know how to bridge the gap with the last question you asked me, but we might need to speak about intergenerational communication. How do we get the young people to talk to the old, and how do we get the old to talk to the young people and have a safe dialogue without anybody saying, I'm 39 years old, I was born in 1985, 11 of March. I'm old, I'm no longer a young person. According to South Africa, I've left the young people bracket. Even United Nations says young person is from 18 to 24. But then in South Africa, we say up to 35. But also we need to look at what is it that knowledge transferring that we need to talk about, that adults may need to pass it down to the younger ones, and also the young ones also feeling safe enough that they could talk to me or they could talk to anybody. I hope I've answered you in a more structured way. Thank you for throwing me under the bus.
And, it's very demure, it's very cutesy, and it's very mindful. Thank you very much for that. Showers. It deserves a showers, that response. Thank you very much, Doctor. So I want to come back to you, Rochelle, in terms of, we spoke about the trauma. You spoke about one of the victims that experienced the trauma, when they went to court. So what are some of the things that you can say that as victims of abuse, they need to literally stay away from that to ensure that they don't, get re-victimized? As you've said, that if they go to court, sometimes they do. But what are some of the things that if maybe, let's say, you were abused financially, Because people don't understand that different types, of abuse. There's financial abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's psychological abuse. So what are some of the things that as victims of abuse they need to stay away from?
Lerato, I will say there's nothing that they need to stay away from, but they need to learn to set boundaries. Boundaries in any kind of abuse is of extreme importance. Sexual abuse, financial abuse. If you have set correct boundaries, you won't enable others to abuse you. Secondly, like I've mentioned, confidence. Confidence, unfortunately, is proven that if you lack confidence, or if you don't believe in yourself, you are at risk of being abused in any kind of way. Someone that's abusing you financially, they understand that you're a if I can use the ugly word of you're a walkover, and unfortunately that's why setting boundaries is of extreme importance. And that's why after being abused, or even if you're already in the relationship, if you are being financially abused, or if you experience intimate partner violence, that's why psychological help is of extreme importance, because that helps you with setting boundaries, knowing where to put your boundaries.
So you need to know where to draw the line.
Yes.
So if it means that, let's say for instance, sometimes we usually call it black tax. Yasin, my mom said I should build for her, I should buy her this, I should buy. So you need to, hey mama, this is for me, this money, it's mine. If it's, let's say for instance, your partner, knowing that you depend also on them when it comes to money, you need to say, listen, I know that I don't have money at this moment, but I'll have it. So if you don't want to give it to me, don't call me names. Don't say anything bad to me. If it's emotional, you also need to learn to tell your friends, friend, every time you call me Noma Orange, I don't like that. You need to address me by my name. But I like that you spoke about boundaries, and I want to jump quickly to you to know, let's say you have a blank check. Let's imagine that. You can even close your eyes. You have a blank check to say you can implement any program that you want on mental health. What would you prioritize?
I will definitely go with group sessions whereby we're going to meet and talk about everything that we're going through. And by so communicating with others, that's whereby we can share, and it will be easier for you to deal with them, because you understand that you're not the only one going through it. And sometimes you might find, okay, there's someone who's going through more than what you're going through. Yeah, it's easier in the group sessions whereby you communicate and talk with our peers, since we can't talk with our parents about certain things.
So I hear a lot of communication, boundaries, and I want to bring it to the audience right now to hear from you. And guys, you must keep it short and simple like me, when you respond to this question. I want to know, how can we as a society empower young people in the prevention of HIV? And I'm going to do picky my chuzeta, because if I say everybody, I know everybody has a solution to this. So there is Mama here on the next to the table, but we are Twitterisha. Can she respond to the question on how can we as a society empower young people? Any of them? Yes, how can we as a society empower young people in the prevention of HIV? Yeah, mama. How can we empower young people in the society when it comes to the prevention of HIV, to ensure that, they know how to protect themselves, they know also what kind of language to use? So how can we do that?
I think young people the teaching should start at home first. It's the family that must first teach the young people everything. But hey, it's difficult in culturally because we are shy to talk about sex and all stuff to our people. But fortunately, nowadays, even at schools, people are taught, because, for instance, I've got a grandchild. I don't know whether she wanted to know if I know. Then she asked me, Magazi, what do you know about what? And I said, I don't know. So there are those challenges. But at the same time, we have to teach them because they are going to have teachings outside, which is misinformation then. So I think that's one of the of the things that we as parents should do to our children. Secondly, I think as far as disability is concerned, our children will go to special schools, for instance. Then, even schools must do have learning curve about sex these days. So our children, they go to these special schools, and then when they go there, they maybe pass grade 12. After grade 12, they don't know what to do. But since there are these fundings and all that, we must tell them now that they mustn't sit down. They must go out there and learn and try and teach other people because it's something that they can do for themselves. There's no way that we must depend on disability grants.
Yeah, I think, we must go out, learn, and we must talk about these issues. So I know, I always do my research. So I know everybody in this room. And I want Mr. Ntuli from IHSPS to tell us, to respond to this. Mr. Ntuli ngimboni. Usifihlile. Uzwa ngibiza igama lakhe athi wababiza bonke uLerato. So I want to know from your side, how to ensure that young people who are enrolled in programs for psychological or psychosocial support are provided with correct, I want to underline this word, correct and bolded, underline, bold, capitalize. They are provided with correct intervention and retained into the programs. So how do you ensure that, young people, yes, they come into the program, they are enrolled. How do you retain them in the program to make sure that they get everything that they want?
Okay. No, thank you very much.
Give it up for Mr. Ntuli!
Yeah, in the first place, to ensure that our beneficiaries receive proper care related to psychosocial support, we have to ensure that our interventionists, our social workers, our social auxiliary workers are properly capacitated. Then we are assured that our beneficiaries will receive quality service. Moreover, we have other activities that really retain young people. I will give you a typical example of the AYPs between the age of 15 to 24. Now, if you are at the age of 21, you're not interested with dancing and doing these other things in the safe spaces. So I've got safe spaces. These safe spaces have plethora of activities. And one of them that we use in Limpopo is the economic strengthening. People are impoverished. So the moment we bring, agencies like NYDA, who will support them with entrepreneur support, young people come in large numbers to come and actually, benefit from such services. And that's how we actually retain them. Some of them, we retain them because now, facilities are far. The comprehensive services that we provide, they easily access them in the safe spaces. If you need HIV testing, if you need contraceptives, they are readily available. So we actually keep them hooked to our safe spaces with such activities. For young ones that are between the age of 10 up until the age of 19, we also have what we call the physical activities. They come to the safe spaces and participate in exercises after school. And because that's entertaining, the odds of them being retained becomes very high. And those are some of the things that help us to retain young people. And by the way, we reach these young people every 6 months. We reach this young person in June. We are likely to receive, to re-reach this girl after 6 months. And we keep on checking on them. And that helps us really to retain them. I hope that I've actually responded to your question.
You
Madam
did.
Chair.
It was very demure.
Sufficiently.
It was very kidsy.
Allah.
Yes, let's give him a showers. Showers. Thank you very much. So I want to come back to, should I come? Let's do you, Rochelle. So you work, in Tutuzela centers. You don't choose your victims. You don't choose your beneficiaries. So it's because they are victims. So there's no way that you can choose, I want this victim because, So how do you get a chance to say, you know what, as a social worker, I'm going to take care of, when do you get the chance to say, I'm going to take care of my mental health? Is there a chance whereby you debrief? Because you've mentioned that most of them, they go through traumas that, are horrific. So do you get a chance to debrief and say, okay, I'm just going to sit in my room, debrief? Or do you go and say, I'm going to go to a social worker or maybe a psychologist and just cry? So how do you deal with your mental health?
Okay, personally, I would say mental health for each staff member is of extreme importance. So yes, we do provide debriefing for each staff member. Personally, I will see a psychologist even myself, especially in the past I used to do that. And yeah, 2 years ago I had my own child and suddenly things changed for me as well because now cases hits different because now you have a child yourself. So yes, I do debrief. And self-care, even if you have to take a long bath or go get a massage for yourself, if you can afford to do that, just self-care. Self-care is go hiking, walk around the block if it's safe. And from Tuduzela's point of view, we don't always say that because we work with these kind of things and that is not always safe. But yes, just self-care and look after yourself. If you need to see a psychologist, do that. For us at Tutuzela, we do provide debriefing for all staff because our social auxiliary workers hear the story just when they come from the police. The police bring them there and they're still in shock, maybe full of blood, so they see whatever the police saw. So they definitely need trauma containment.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to bring it also to you to know, how do you take care of your mental health? As young people sometimes, yes, Sizoti, no nyagowisha, I'll just go and dance, I'll just go and cry. But how do you take care of your mental health?
I myself prefer being alone. Mm-hmm. I prefer locking myself in a room and crying it out.
Okay.
Then a day or two after, that's whereby I'll go back to a safe space and go and say it all out.
She just reminded me of a song that, go on and cry, my child. But anyway, we will sing it later once we close. So before we close, I'm looking for Idlozile Beyond Zero. Lipilona. Okay, so Sis Pam, I want to hear from your side. You've been doing a lot of work with adolescents, and some of them that you've done the work with are now young people. Now the others are no longer young people, they're young adults. So how do you and your team ensure that the SRs are effectively providing services as per indicator to make sure, listen, if you said you will do this, you do it, and you do it very well. Sometimes there are those people who tick boxes and say, we did this, we did this, we did this. So how do you ensure that they provide those services particularly the ones that they said they will. They don't tick boxes. Mabakuxelelile bathi sizoya eMgugundlovu and provide 1, 2, 3. They provide that eMgugundlovu and not in eThekwini. Also, they don't provide 4, 5, 6. They provide 1, 2, 3. So how do you do that? It's working now.
Okay, you have to make sure that your team is capacitated, your team is supported, your team has got the right resources, and your team is able to have the right tools to do the work. But mostly, you always make sure that supervision is key. And whilst you do supervision, it's not policing your team. You have an open relationship with your team because they mustn't see you as a ghost or somebody that is policing them. They must see you as a support person. And they must be able to lift up a hand and say that we have a challenge here and there. But monitoring and evaluating the work that they are doing. But I think critically, the best people that can tell us if our SRs are doing the work are the beneficiaries themselves. There is constant evaluations that are done with the actual beneficiaries to check if the program is still giving them what we said that it will give. And you constantly engage them, and there is feedback. There's different ways that one can engage them. You do focus group discussions, you do chats at the safe space, you have your evaluation forms, and you just engage them even during the events just to check if your team is still giving what they said that they will give. But also you do your spot checks as a supervisor because we are getting a lot of money from our donors to ensure that we are giving that money back to the beneficiaries in terms of the programs. So you have to make sure that there is value for money for the programs that we said that we will do. So there is constant supervision. You engage them virtually, physically, you are there. So every 2 weeks we engage our teams and we visit our SRs on a monthly basis. So there is just no way that you can escape from us.
Thank you very much. You know, banjongile. Every 2 weeks, umampem, phone ati, listen, what are you doing? And ungaxoki. So thank you very much for that, Mampem. Before I close, I thought I would see Gogo Sheila, but I think, I've been trying to spy with my little eye. Oh, she's here, yes. So I wrote this, like I was looking at her when she was that side. I'm like, I need to ask her this. So Gogo Sheila, I want to hear from you as the co-chair of the SAGNEC Civil Society, in your capacity. Uguti, when you do consultations for the national strategic plans, how do you effectively engage young people, especially adolescents? Sometimes we would say we've engaged young people and forget that they're still adolescents. That 13-year-old, 14-year-old, they still have a voice as much as they're still minors, but they still have a voice. How do you effectively engage them? And how do you also, make sure it cross-cuts with their human rights? So I don't want to bombard it a lot, but how do you ensure that you effectively engage them? And how do you ensure that young people, and adolescents particularly, they know their human rights, they know the NSP? Oh, by the way, the NSP is the National Strategic Plan on HIV, TB, and STIs.
Good evening. I'm not sure whether you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yes. I think, as you know, that from the SANEC family, we have 18 sectors. And I think our motto is nothing about us without us. From the sector where I come from, I cannot speak for young people. So when we do a consultation, first it will be a sectoral consultation where we are expecting all sectors should at least respond to the NSP itself and look at what can you contribute under treatment, maybe prevention, support, and so forth and so forth. So from young people, because they are young people, and they know what they want, we can't impose systems to them. We can only help where possible. And where we see there are gaps, we can only fill those gaps. So what we did, because you have a sector that is young youth sector, but you also have children's sector. Unfortunately, we do not have children that are attending SANEC. So we have mothers and fathers that are sitting on behalf of these children. So that is where maybe the voice of these babies that we cannot hear, but we do hear the voice of young people. We were once there, Lebo, and we never took your stand. You were the only one that were able to say what you want and how you want it, as we had to ensure that you've got the she conquers and master it, and will hear and assist possibly where you want our assistance.
Thank you very much. So parents that are sitting at the children's sector, we need to engage with them and say, when you are engaging, are you engaging as a parent, or you are engaging as a gatekeeper? But I know that you hold them accountable, and I trust you because I've worked with you. So before I close, guys, I want us to remember that we need to continue commemorating the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. But Mina, because I like bending some of the rules, I say it's 365 days of activism against gender-based violence against women and children. So before I close, these are the words that you need to remember when you leave this room. Collaboration. We need to collaborate. Evaluation. Whatever that you do, be like Mam Pam. Uba phonele every 2 weeks. Make sure that you become a change ambassador, and we need to ensure that we continue having those intergenerational dialogues. But the most important one, set boundaries and be selfish, because it's not a bad word. With that said, the Say It, Let's Talk program, it's making significant strides in empowering young people and providing them with the tools they need to lead a healthier, more fulfilling life. If you need more information about safe spaces, guys, make sure that you follow us on our Facebook pages at Beyond Zero on Facebook, on X, on Instagram. And also, you see, it's written here, Say It. You follow Say It, Let's Talk on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And I hope you guys were taking so many pictures to tag us and share the information also with the young people in the communities back home. Say It, Let's Talk. It's for empowered adolescent girls. It's for empowered adolescents and young people. With that said, thank you very much. From me, Lerato Sabarolong, good night and take care.
This podcast is brought to you by Beyond Zero for its Adolescent and Young People's program, Men Who Have Sex with Men program, and Transgender program. We are Beyond Zero.